At the celebration banquet, my girlfriend stood beside her first love. In the heat of the moment, the excited crowd urged them to kiss. Later, a friend forwarded me the video, now trending everywhere. I watched it in silence. Strangely, I wasn't angry. I wasn't even sad. A small, bitter smile tugged at my lips as I typed a comment beneath it, after sneaking around for so many years. They finally dare to kiss openly. Congrats. Just last week, it had been my father's first birthday since being discharged from the hospital. I had invited Freya to join us for dinner, wanting her to share in that moment with my family. We waited until the food turned cold, but she never came. Later, I saw on Matthew's WeChat that she had rushed to the hospital to take care of him over nothing more than a sneeze. When I confronted her, she brushed it off. Your dad's fine now, and I'm not even part of your family. I'd just be in the way. We didn't speak for days after that, and yesterday she sent me a text inviting me to her company's celebration banquet. It was her subtle way of extending an olive branch. This wasn't new. Again and again, we quarreled and reconciled, always because of Matthew. Ever since he returned to the country, our relationship had been at his mercy. Whether things were good or bad between us depended entirely on her mood, and her mood depended entirely on him. I had become nothing more than a pawn in the unspoken game between them. But when I read her message yesterday, there was no joy left in me, only exhaustion. I knew something had shifted, and maybe that was a good thing. At last I could take my heart back. Leaving it in the hands of someone who never valued it had drained me beyond words. I replied simply, "Got it," and went back to work. Disappointment had become far too familiar. Today, after work, I cleaned myself up, but didn't bother changing into a suit. When I arrived at the hotel, I was right on time, but without an invitation. I couldn't get in. I called her, sent messages, but there was no answer. So I stood there at the entrance, watching elegantly dressed guests coming and going, feeling like an outsider in my own relationship. After the 10th unanswered call, I turned and walked away. The street outside was crowded, and finding a cab was impossible. So I walked home instead, humming softly, letting the cool night air carry away my thoughts. For the first time in a long while, the quiet felt peaceful. When I got home, I finally opened the video my friend had sent. On the screen, a stunning couple, Freya and her date, looked perfect together, kissing passionately as the crowd cheered. The caption called them the stars of the banquet. The video had already hit the local trending page, flooded with comments about how they were a match made in heaven. Oddly enough, I felt nothing but calm, even relief. If they were truly together, then my heart, which I had only just managed to free, might never be tempted to return. I typed one last comment beneath the video, knowing it would be lost among thousands of others. Freya and her little lover can finally be open about it now. Respect and congrats. After a shower, I went straight to bed. I didn't care about the rumors spreading online. I didn't care why she hadn't given me an invitation. None of it mattered anymore. In the middle of the night, half asleep, I heard Freya stumbling back home, drunk. Her footsteps were heavy and unsteady, echoing through the quiet apartment. For the first time, I didn't get up to help her. I didn't go to the kitchen to make her a bowl of hangover soup. The sharp smell of alcohol hit me as she came closer, and I frowned. It turns out that without the rose-colored glasses I used, to where Freya was actually irritating. She lingered there for a long moment, not turning away. I rolled over, pretending to sleep, leaving her behind. "Kevin, I want some hangover soup," she mumbled, her tone almost petulant. I stayed still. No bowl of soup was worth getting up for in the middle of the night anymore. I used to wait at home like a dutiful spouse, just so that when Freya returned, she'd see someone was there for her. All I ever got in return was her cold indifference. And sometimes outright disdain. Even that soup. The small gesture I thought meant something, often ended up spilled across the floor after one of our heated arguments. Staining the carpet I'd picked out with care, she'd watch my frustration with a detached air of superiority, waiting for the perfect moment to stab me in the heart. If I really had something going on with Matthew, she'd say, "Why would I still be with you?" Eventually, she stopped offering even that flimsy explanation. She'd just watch me fall apart, piece myself back together, and then crush me again the moment I found my footing. I got used to it. Looking back now, a grown man behaving like that, like I did, it's pathetic. Embarrassing even. When she realized I wasn't responding, she pushed me again. I didn't move. Finally, she gave up. Listen to her. Clattering around the apartment, removing her makeup, showering noisily. By the time I woke again, it was already 10 in the morning. Surprisingly, Freya was still in bed, her face buried in the covers. Odd. She wasn't out with Matthew today. After a simple brunch, I sat on the couch and rewatched the video from yesterday. Over and over, at least 10 times, I watched them kissing and dancing together. My eyes caught every detail, even the latest model Rolex on Matthew's wrist. A gift from Freya. No reason for it. She just felt like giving it to him. So different from the Freya who had always been so reluctant to spend even a little on my father when he was in the hospital. At 1 p.m., Freya finally got up. She glanced. At the empty dining table, clearly surprised I hadn't cooked for her as usual. "Why didn't you come yesterday?" she asked, scrolling through her phone beside me. "You didn't give me an invitation," I said with a faint smile. "They don't know me. How would I have gotten in?" Freya had climbed her way up to vice president of her company, yet none of her colleagues knew she even had a boyfriend. Some thought she was a wealthy single woman. I used to get upset about it, but she'd always respond with that condescending tone. "I go to work to make money, not to show off my relationship. Can you stop interfering with my work?" It wasn't until yesterday that I finally understood. It wasn't that she didn't want to introduce her boyfriend. It was that the title of boyfriend belonged to Matthew, not me. "Why didn't you call?" she asked. I smiled faintly, nodding toward her phone. By now, it was probably filled with my missed calls. "Well, since you didn't show up, I ran into Matthew," she said casually. "I had him stand in for you." I nodded again, saying nothing. I knew exactly what kind of man Matthew was. "He did it on purpose." "Great," I said lightly. "After all, he's much better looking than me. A perfect fit to be your date." There was nothing to argue. Freya's eyes widened as if she didn't recognize the man in front of her. "Are you mad?" "I told you nothing's going on between us. If you two could be together." I interrupted, shrugging. "You would have already been, and I'd have been out of the picture a long time ago. I'm working overtime today, so I won't be home for dinner." When I returned later that night, the house was empty. Sure enough, Freya had started another round of silent treatment. Honestly, the Cold War was pointless. I used to rack my brains for all kinds of little surprises to make peace with her, wearing myself out in the process. Now I felt something different, an unprecedented sense of relief. I didn't have to wait up for her at night, wondering when she'd come home or whether she was out drinking. In the mornings, I no longer had to leave the house half an hour early just to drive 3 extra streets out of my way to drop her at work. I didn't need to keep checking my phone during meetings, waiting for her replies, or worrying if she was with Matthew. None of it was my concern anymore. With my focus finally back on myself, I suddenly had more time for my own life. I could play games with friends without feeling guilty, go out for late-night barbecue with colleagues. That, even over time, felt lighter now. Watching my juniors rise to leadership roles made me feel ashamed of how much I'd coasted. Like when Freya said, "As long as one of us can earn money, that's enough." I didn't hesitate to give up on my career. I came home early every night so she could have a hot meal waiting for her, even though she rarely ate at home. Always out socializing. I kept at it for years. I guess I'd been blinded by love. Now that I'm free of this toxic cycle, I can see how wrong I was. In love, maybe there's no such thing as first come, first served, but the one who's not loved, they always lose. Freya never even visited my father when he was sick, yet she would make ginger soup for Matthew over something as trivial as a sneeze. I ruined my career for her. Now, I have nothing to show for it. Not even the relationship I'd once been proud of. It's just a joke to others now. I guess I should thank the person who filmed that video. Without it, I might never have seen things clearly. Who knows how much longer I'd have been stuck, unable to escape. The younger generation's ambition has rubbed off on me. It's time to take the second step in my life. The first step was throwing away my dignity for Freya. The second will be reclaiming it, piece by piece. I've started taking work seriously. Again, even volunteering for overtime. I'm preparing for exams and evaluations, pushing myself harder than ever. In an era of slackers, I stood out fast. My colleagues joke that I've become a workaholic. Strangely, their banter feels more satisfying than any conversation I ever had with Freya. These past few days, she's still been giving me the cold shoulder, barely coming home. That's fine by me. Otherwise, I'd have to explain my sudden transformation, and in her world, she always has to be the most important. When this Cold War ends, I know I'll be expected to go back to playing the servant to her spoiled princess. So God, let this Cold War drag on a little longer. At least for now, I'm living a freedom I haven't felt in years. During a meeting break, I stepped outside with a colleague for a cigarette. Out of nowhere, Freya sent me a message only to quickly retract it. It was one of her old tricks, pretending to send the wrong message just to get my attention. That used to work when we were still flirting. Back then, I would have gotten jealous, thinking she was deliberately trying to catch my eye. Now, I just assumed she really had sent it by mistake. I deleted the conversation without hesitation, erasing years of memories with it. After work, my phone rang. It was Freya. "I'll pick you up," she said, not asking, but commanding, leaving no room for refusal. I guess she knew my car was restricted that day. Still, my first instinct was to resist. "No need," I replied. "I'll just take the subway." "More eco-friendly," she laughed sarcastically, then hung up after declaring she'd be waiting downstairs. With no choice, I slung my bag over my shoulder and headed out. I waited an hour. Still no sign of her. Then my phone rang again. "You haven't come down yet?" she asked. "I've been at the entrance the whole time," I said. Silence. I could hear her irritation building. "Aren't you at Panda Tower?" she asked. A smirk crossed my face. "Panda Tower is Matthew's company," I said quietly, "not mine." Huh, I knew I shouldn't have placed any faith in Freya. This was just more proof of my place. In her heart, I'll take the subway. "Don't bother coming here." I hung up before she could say another word. It was the first time I'd ever hung up on her. It felt good. By the time I got home, Freya was already sitting on the couch waiting for me, a rare sight, considering she always had a million excuses to stay out. Dinner with coworkers today, camping with friends tomorrow. Somehow Matthew's shadow always seemed to be there in the background. "Kevin, you're back. I didn't mean it today. I was trying to surprise you, but I messed it up." "I know you didn't mean it," I said quietly. In fact, that was exactly the problem. She didn't mean anything because she didn't care. "You're not mad, right?" she asked, studying my expression, trying to read me. I shook my head, pulled a few ingredients from the fridge, just enough to make dinner for one. It had been a while since I cooked. My hands felt clumsy. Seeing me prepare only my own meal told her everything she needed to know. "Not even cooking for me anymore? If you're not mad, then why? Why are you always like this?" "I've already apologized. Isn't that enough?" Classic Freya. She could read people, but she never took responsibility for her own actions. It was partly my fault too. In the past, I would have been furious by now, dragging old grievances into the fight, demanding we settle them all at once. And every time, she'd go straight for my weakest spot with the same line. "If Matthew and I could be together, we would have already, and you wouldn't matter." God, how I hated that line. "There's nothing else in the fridge," I said flatly. "You'll just have to make do." The truth. I couldn't be bothered to cook for her anymore. I'd lost count of how many times I'd made dinner and waited, reheating the food over and over, only for her to never show. And when I complained about the waste, she'd always brush it off. How much can a few dishes cost? Stop making a fuss over nothing. My efforts were worthless to her. I thought she'd take the hint and leave me alone for a while, maybe even give me the silent treatment again. Honestly, I would have welcomed it. But the next day at noon, she messaged me, "I'll meet you at your office. I've got a meeting nearby and can give you a ride." I glanced at my car parked downstairs. Did she know how expensive overnight parking is around here? I was about to refuse. But then I thought better of it. Maybe this was my chance to finally settle things, end it cleanly. She could be with Matthew without any more delays. After work, I headed downstairs with my bag. This time, she didn't go to the wrong place, but she'd brought an unwelcome guest. Matthew, it had been a long time since we'd met in such a formal setting. Usually, it was just him dropping Freya off at home. Now, he sat in the passenger seat, while Freya honked from behind the wheel as if to ask why I wasn't getting in. I laughed under my breath, then opened the back door and slid in. Why not enjoy the ride? I'd heard the passenger seat had the highest fatality rate in accidents anyway. No thanks. As my thoughts wandered, I remembered the first time I met Matthew. Our friends had thrown him a welcome party, and by coincidence my team's event was at the same venue. I'd had a few drinks, and when it ended, I went to find Freya, only to see the two of them drinking from the same glass, laughing. Under the teasing of mutual friends, someone even asked her, "When are you going to break up with that guy?" Matthew's standing right in front of you. Matthew, with that calm and charming demeanor he always carried, just smiled at her. Freya didn't say a word. She just shook her head. That's when I realized Matthew was the first love buried deep in her heart, the one I could never compete with. Back then, I couldn't help but compare myself to him. But now, I've stopped caring. Comparing yourself to others. What's the point? Freya, there's an art exhibition this weekend. Why don't you come with me? Matthew's voice broke the heavy silence in the car. For some reason, she didn't answer right away. Instead, she glanced at me through the rearview mirror, as if to gauge my reaction. Kevin wouldn't be that petty, would he? Keeping you cooped up all weekend like some housewife. Matthew's tone was mocking, dripping with the quiet contempt he'd always had for me. I shrugged. Do whatever you want. I've got overtime this weekend anyway. Go enjoy yourselves. Just try not to let another video go viral this time. It's not a good look. I said it pointedly, catching Freya's confused expression. A video? What video? Her surprise seemed genuine, but I didn't care to explain. Why cause more trouble for myself? Matthew quickly steered the conversation back to the art exhibit, and I knew this was all part of his plan. But as long as Freya didn't officially break up with me, he'd have to stay on the sidelines. I had planned to settle things today. End it cleanly, so she could be with Matthew without delay. But now, I found it amusing to let Matthew play the third wheel for a while longer. I stayed quiet, scrolling through my phone and saving all the trending clips from yesterday, a solid evidence of Freya's infidelity. Thinking of that, I felt a pang of regret about the parking fees. Their chatter became background noise, lulling me into sleep. When I woke up, we were already home. I stretched lazily and followed Freya upstairs. Silence hung between us, but I welcomed it. "You're working overtime this weekend?" she asked suddenly, catching me off guard. I replied. "Going to the office to read counts as overtime, doesn't it?" "Today I picked up some things with Matthew," she blurted, as if that would explain her day. I didn't answer. Matthew's family wasn't short on money. What could he possibly need her to buy for him? No, she was just playing the simp again, following him like a loyal dog. And haven't I been her dog all along? It's only now this dog has finally wised up. I muttered a few half-hearted replies, then prepared to shower and sleep. Later that night, Freya pressed herself against me, sending a shiver down my spine. But I didn't move. My heart was as calm as still water. The next day, to my surprise, Freya was downstairs again. "Lucas and the others want to meet up today. They insisted I bring you along." I glanced at her, speechless. All I could think about was my expensive parking fees. I held back for a moment and then finally said, "I'll drive. You lead the way. Just make sure to follow me," she urged, worried I might back out. Why would I? Lucas was the one who sent me that video. He was also the one who had encouraged Freya to break up with me. They'd all grown up together, childhood friends. Everyone thought Freya and Matthew were meant to be destined for each other, for reasons I still don't understand. When Matthew left the country, Freya ended up with me, the clueless fool. We'd been together for years. But since Matthew's return, that old group had been inseparable again. Lucas never missed a chance to remind me of how great Matthew and Freya's relationship once was, how their families supported it, how they were the perfect match. Whenever I heard it, I would lose my temper, running to confront Freya, only to get the same cold response. If we could be together, we would have already. What's it got to do with you? It was a vicious cycle, old wounds reopening, festering. But I've learned to be like a cockroach, hard to kill. I've cut away the rot, stitched up what won't heal, and now I'm moving on. I accepted Freya's invitation. After all, I was curious to see what kind of drama this banquet would bring. We arrived at Lucas's door. Before I could ring the bell, it swung open and streams of confetti rained down. Matthew stepped forward, holding a bouquet of roses, and handed them to Freya. Freya, today marks the 15th anniversary of us meeting. Back then, when you confessed to me, I didn't respond because I wanted to give you a better life, so you'd never have to worry, so you wouldn't have to work so hard. Now, I have the means to make you happy. I think it's time I gave you my answer. I want to be with you. Their friends erupted in cheers, egging them on. Lucas grinned and added, Matthew gave up a high-paying job overseas just to come. Back for you, Freya. It's time to get things back on track. We're all waiting for the wedding. The atmosphere was so harmonious, so unified in their joy, that even I, the so-called official boyfriend, found myself clapping, clap, clap. It was only then they seemed to notice I was even there. The cheers died down, except for Lucas, drunk and unfiltered. Kevin, you've got the nerve to show up? If you're a real man, you'll hand Freya back to Matthew. Haven't you figured it out after all these years? Sure, I said lightly, almost playfully. Matthew, congratulations on finally getting what you've always wanted. The third wheel is officially getting promoted to the main act. Freya turned to me in disbelief, as if she didn't recognize me. I shrugged. Did I say something wrong, Kevin? You can't talk about Freya like that, Matthew snapped. When Freya didn't jump to defend him, a flicker of irritation crossed his face before he redirected his anger toward me. I'm just trying to give us closure for the past. You don't have to be so harsh. Closure? I almost laughed. Kind of closure involves forcing a public confession in front of someone's boyfriend? Maybe this is just how rich people entertain themselves. The people around us started taking sides, criticizing me as if I shouldn't have been there in the first place. Enough. Freya tossed the flowers into Lucas's hands and, with a blank expression, walked to my side. Kevin is my boyfriend. I'm the one who asked him to come. If you have complaints, direct them at me. She suddenly remembered to stand up for me. She must be going through something, because in the past, whenever her friends mocked me, she would just stand there like some victorious statue watching me take the hits. And if I ever asked her about it, she'd say, they're just friends. You're a man. What's a few words? Why take it so seriously? Now that I've lost all hope, she decides to defend me. Too late. People often try to prove their place in someone's heart by testing their emotions over and over. The more emotional the reaction, the more important they think they are. Eventually, I realized Freya wasn't emotionally numb. She had just poured all her attention into Matthew. Freya, don't get me wrong. I'm just trying to make up for what I couldn't do before. If you're upset, I'll apologize to Kevin on behalf of everyone. I'm sure he won't hold a grudge, right? Matthew was smart diffusing the tension by taking the blame himself. A clever diversion. Freya's face wavered, glancing between me and the crowd. I won't hold a grudge. After all, I didn't say anything when your kissing video went viral. This is just a confession. I'm not that petty. Don't worry. My voice was calm, almost casual. A video. What video? Freya's confusion was real, but the mention of a kiss seemed to trigger her memory. I pulled out my phone. Honestly, if Lucas hadn't sent it to me, I never would have known. I showed her the trending clip of her and Matthew kissing. Her face drained of color, then flushed red, then pale again. Love doesn't vanish in a single moment, but humiliating her in front of everyone wasn't my goal. So I walked away, sitting. In my car, memories of Freya and me washed over me. Felt like everything we had evaporated in that one confrontation. My phone rang again and again, but I silenced it and drove home. To my home, My dad's been out of the hospital for a while now, and I still haven't visited him. As for Freya, we'll talk when she's calmed down. The next time I see her, she might already be Matthew's girlfriend." When I stepped outside the next morning, Freya was waiting downstairs. The rising sun cast a soft glow over her face, making her weariness look almost poetic. "Kevin, you're finally out." She rushed to match my pace. "You weren't answering my calls. You haven't been home. I didn't know how else to reach you. I don't even have your parents' phone numbers. I've been waiting for you." 5 years together, and she still didn't have my parents' contact info. She hesitated to visit my dad in the hospital, yet she never forgot to send gifts to Matthew's parents for every holiday. I had once planned to use this chance to introduce her to my family. Now, it felt pointless. "I really don't know how that video got out," she said quickly. "I've already contacted the uploader to get it taken down. We were just playing a game back then, and I didn't want to embarrass Matthew in front of everyone. It was my fault. I swear it won't happen again, Kevin. It won't happen again." I'd heard that too many times after she got drunk with Matthew. After she spent the night with him because I couldn't reach her. After she stayed at his place to take care of him. She'd always snap. "I told you, it won't happen again. What more do you want?" She was the one who kept making promises only to break them. "I'll stay at my place for now. Let's both take some time to think things over." Ignoring her empty vows, I got into my car and drove to work. At lunch, Freya sent me a message, then retracted it. A moment later, she sent a picture of a travel plan. I replied with a question. "Mark, was she seriously showing me her trip with Matthew? You said you've always wanted to visit the capital, right? I've made all the arrangements. Let's go together." It talked about traveling so many times. I always worried. She was too busy, so I did all the planning. She just had to follow me. Every time, she claimed she didn't have time. Too busy having dinners with Matthew, stargazing with Matthew, attending events with Matthew, never time for me. Too bad I deleted our old messages. Otherwise, I could scroll through all the times I played the fool. My long paragraphs met with her one-line replies, sometimes no reply at all. At first, I told myself she was just busy with work. Later, I got used to it, even treating our chats as her daily reminder to eat. In love, the one who loves more is always the one who loses. But I liked her. What could I do? Now I realize sometimes the best outcome between two people is to simply not disturb each other. I skimmed through her travel itinerary and set it aside. She hadn't even remembered I'm allergic to chicken, yet the very first stop she'd circled in bold was roasted chicken in the capital. The weekend finally arrived. My colleagues had been pestering me for a celebration ever since I got promoted to team leader. I grinned, waved my hand, and told them today's bill was on me. I have to admit, ever since I stopped planning for a wedding, my spending habits have loosened. I used to live so frugally, saving every spare cent for a future with Freya. Even when coworkers wanted to split a simple coffee, they wouldn't bother asking me. They already knew I'd refuse. Eventually, they stopped inviting me to group activities altogether. Meanwhile, Freya spent money like water always for Matthew's happiness. Luxury watches, high-end goods, she bought them without blinking. She even dipped into our house savings without hesitation. I tried to advise her to be more mindful, but she'd snap. Most of that money was earned by me anyway. I can always earn it back later. Eventually, I stopped bringing it up. Now I'm almost grateful. I finally have time and money for myself. With arms slung around each other's shoulders, we headed to a barbecue joint our company's hidden gem. Big portions, great flavor, and easy on the wallet. Just as I raised my glass to celebrate, Freya called, "Kevin, are you coming home tonight? I bought all your favorite dishes. It's been so long since we had dinner together." I thought about Freya's cooking skills. If we ate, I'd probably be the one doing the cooking. "No need. You eat on your own time, eating out," I replied. Right then, one of my female colleagues shouted for everyone to raise a toast to me. Freya's tone sharpened. "Who's that? Why are there women's voices?" I sighed. "I'm at a dinner. Isn't it normal to have female coworkers? Don't be so paranoid." It was the same line she'd always used on me whenever I found out she was with Matthew. Now, I finally had the chance to throw it back at her. After hanging up, I went back to my meal. The grilled skewers were incredible. Throughout the evening, Freya sent messages saying she was worried about me drinking and offering to come pick me up. I ignored them, making plans with my colleagues for another round. When I didn't reply, she called again, refusing to give up. "What's your deal, princess?" I asked when I finally answered. "I'm worried about you. Just give me a chance to apologize. Okay?" she said, her voice faltering. Hearing an apology from Freya felt like meeting a different person. She'd always prided herself on being a strong, independent woman, someone who bled and sweated but never cried, never admitted fault. When I loved her, I thought that was strength. Now, it just felt exhausting. I sent her my location but didn't say when I'd be done. By the time we stumbled out, drunk and unsteady, Freya was already waiting by the door. "How did you drink this much?" she scolded, trying to guide me to her car. I waved her off, staggering toward my own. Even drunk, I didn't forget how expensive parking was here. She bit her lip but followed. "I want to go home," I mumbled from the passenger seat as she drove. "My own house, not yours." But when we arrived at her place, she coaxed and guided me upstairs. Freya was unusually gentle, helping me into bed. Before leaving, she pressed a soft kiss to my forehead. I opened my eyes, fully awake. My hand lingered on the spot where her lips had been, and a strange calm settled over me. To avoid her, I got up before dawn. I didn't expect to see her curled up asleep on the couch. I tiptoed over, draped a blanket over her, and accidentally woke her. "Kevin, you're awake. I'll make you some hangover soup," she murmured, her voice soft, stripped of the authority she wore at work. "No need. Go back to bed," I said quickly and slipped out the door. Surprisingly, Freya didn't go to the art exhibition with Matthew that day. Instead, she brought a lunchbox to my office and left it at the front desk, afraid I'd refuse to see her. From that day on, she seemed different. She stopped hanging out with Lucas and their group. She turned down Matthew's invitations. Every day, she brought me lunch, reminding me to eat. Even when I went out with colleagues, she'd show up at the restaurant afterward to take me home. I didn't know what game she was playing, but with a new project keeping me busy, I let her be. And so, Freya started hurrying home every day, just to cook for me. Some of her friends messaged her, teasing that she must be getting ready to settle down with Matthew and become a housewife. I happened to be sitting right beside her when one of those messages came through. The voice note played loud and clear. Freya fumbled to close it, but somehow managed to turn the volume up instead. Expressionless, I sat next to her, reviewing a work proposal, feeling utterly calm inside. I wasn't about to foolishly open my heart again just because of Freya's sudden change, and I was right not to. I overheard her typing a reply, and then she even posted a picture of us together on her Moments. Noticing my frown, she hurried to show me the post, thinking I was upset about it. Truth was, my frown wasn't because of her post at all, it was because I'd just noticed a small mistake in the proposal. The picture she had posted was from our 5-year anniversary, taken at a studio where I'd dragged her to get some photos that day. She'd been unusually cheerful, smiling constantly. I thought it was because she was excited about my proposal plan. Later, I realized it was because she'd received a message from Matthew telling her that her first love was coming back to the country. Thinking back now, yes, that happiness had been real. But beautiful moments are fleeting. 5 years passed in the blink of an eye. The company just called me in for overtime. "You'll have to eat alone," I told her. I needed to go back and fix this proposal. It could be my stepping stone to a promotion. Ignoring her hesitant look and the soup she had painstakingly prepared, I left the house. Didn't need me as a dinner guest anyway. Who would have thought that after finishing my overtime, I'd find Freya waiting for me outside the office again. I rubbed my eyes, thinking I was seeing things. I had expected her to throw a fit after I brushed her off, maybe even start a cold war. But there she was, standing in the cold wind, cheeks flushed, waiting to pick me up from work. At that moment, I made a decision. Even though I no longer loved her, the Freya I remembered had once been a bright, confident girl, full of sunshine. For my own sake, I didn't want to see her reduced to this pitiful state. I knew there was no going back for us. "Let's talk," I said, walking toward her, watching her expression shift from surprise to fear. Without a word, she got in her car and drove away. I scratched my head and decided to head to my parents' house instead. We both knew there was an insurmountable gap between us. Dragging things out wouldn't fix anything. I didn't expect Freya to be this patient. To avoid me bringing up a breakup, she initiated another Cold War. This time, neither of us was willing to back down. Just when I was stewing in my thoughts, my dad called me into his room. "Life isn't all about love," he said. "Sometimes letting go now might be the best way to meet again under better circumstances. Right now, you're both too stubborn, and it's only hurting you." When my parents first learned I was with Freya, they were happy. They'd heard her name from me many times, delighted at the thought of us getting married. They even urged us to tie the knot. But I kept brushing it off, taking on all the pressure myself so she wouldn't have to worry. I didn't want her burdened by these trivial matters. Who would have thought I'd never get the chance to say these things? To her, just as I stepped out of my dad's room, there was a knock at the door. "Kevin." Freya walked in, full of energy, carrying health supplements, greeting my parents with a bright smile. "Uncle, Auntie, it's been so long. I've been busy lately, so I haven't had time to visit. I heard Uncle's recovery has been going. Well, so I came by to check on him." My parents exchanged a surprised glance, then looked at me. They soon excused themselves, leaving just the two of us. With no audience, I dropped my polite demeanor. "Freya, don't you think it's a bit inappropriate to show up unannounced? Uncle's been sick. I came to check on him. Is that so wrong? My dad's already recovered. Now, you remember to come see him? Where were you when I asked you earlier? I was busy then. But as soon as I had time, good. Since you're here, let's have a proper talk." We went to a cafe near the house. Stopped her from ordering anything. "Let's get this over with quickly. I need to head back to work." "Don't. You think the way we've been interacting is off. No man can stand his girlfriend being so close with another gain, not to mention the other inappropriate things." Ignoring her attempts to explain, I went on. "I really did love you back then. But you shouldn't have taken my love for granted. I'm only human. I get tired too." I sighed, debating whether to keep going. Freya just sat there, quietly, crying. "I know I've been selfish, Kevin. I admit, when Matthew first came back, I was confused. But over time, I've realized, you're the one I truly love. I've told everyone I'm your girlfriend now. I told Matthew we won't be hanging out anymore. Can you please give me another chance? I'll change until you love me again, okay, Freya? You still don't get it, do you?" Said softly. "The problem between us isn't just Matthew. It's that you crossed a line. Without even realizing it, you gave him your heart. I never once saw in you the special affection a girlfriend should have for her boyfriend. If I had a childhood friend and constantly catered to her, would you be happy? And the most painful thing for me, when my dad got sick and wanted to see you ran off to take care of Matthew. Do you really need you? Or were you just avoiding meeting my parents? Should have ended this a long time ago." With that, I left the cafe. Through the car window, I saw Freya sitting there, in silence, the sunlight catching the tear stains on her face. Maybe this was the first time she had ever cried for me. I have many memories of Freya crying. Like a little hamster, she would bury her head in the blankets, silently shedding tears. If she stayed that way for more than 5 minutes, I knew without a doubt she was crying. She cried for many reasons: failing an exam, frustrations at work, feeling homesick, or perhaps thinking about her unrequited love. She cried after meeting Matthew, too, but those were tears of joy. That kind of happiness, where everything feels solved, simply because her first love was back by her side. When I stood next to Freya, I used to think, as long as I'm here, I'll never let her shed a single tear for me in this lifetime. In the end, I broke that promise. After our last talk, I deleted all my connections with Lucas and the others. They were friends I had only gotten to know because of Freya, and they never acknowledged me anyway. I threw myself back into my own world, working, studying, and talking to my parents each night. A strange peace settled over my days. Freya never reached out again. Her social media went silent. And that was for the best. If I saw her again, I might be reminded of my pitiful past as her fool. A role I swore I'd never play again, but fate had other plans. I ran into her at the hospital. I was there with my dad for a follow-up when I saw her by the entrance, scanning the crowd. I wanted to pretend I hadn't noticed, but her eyes lit up the second she spotted me. She jogged over. "Kevin, uncle." What a coincidence. I took the medical file from my hands like it was the most natural thing in the world. Was the checkup smooth? We're recovering well, right? She linked her arm through my dad's and kept glancing at me over her shoulder. "Kevin, why are you just standing there? Come on, catch up." She made my dad laugh the entire way home. Couldn't even find a space to speak. When we arrived, my dad asked me to see her off, but looking at her proud, triumphant smile, I fell silent. "Freya, you don't have to do this. Really? You don't need to take care of my parents. There's no future for us. Ow. Why put yourself through this?" The Freya I remembered always held her head high, never bowing to the world. Even when life threw her into chaos, she carried hope in her eyes. Even though we've broken up, I don't want her to change that. It's not worth losing yourself for someone else. "I just feel guilty toward Uncle and Auntie," she said. Softly, "I never visited them properly when we were together. Can't you give me this chance? Is that so wrong? You know my answer?" Hearing my mom call out for Freya to stay for dinner, I steeled myself. Ignoring her hopeful gaze, I closed the door behind her. It was better this way. Better for both of us. Dragging this out would only hurt more. Recently, the company offered me an assignment abroad. If I do well, I could get promoted 3 levels. I hesitated. My parents are here, and my dad is getting older. But today, I knew I had to go. Partly to avoid Freya, but mostly to challenge myself. I've been stuck for too long. It's time to get my life back on track. My family supported me without hesitation. On a quiet afternoon, I packed my bags and left home. Aside from my parents, I didn't tell anyone. Freya had stopped contacting me, but her name still popped up in my parents' conversations. "Freya came by to clean the house today. Freya took your dad to his checkup yesterday. Freya made a whole table of your favorite dishes." I was grateful for all she did, but I never reached out. Her social media no longer showed Matthew or Lucas Only flowers and homemade dishes. But it didn't matter. I would never fall for her again. I used to wake up early to buy her fresh flowers. I used to spend hours learning to cook her favorite meals. But when we broke up, it meant the end. A year passed in the blink of an eye. On a video call with my parents, I told them I'd met someone and would bring her home for New Year's. They froze for a moment, then smiled and agreed. From the corner of the screen, I spotted the edge of Freya's dress, the same long dress she wore when we first met. I smiled and ended the call. Looks like my parents will soon go back to enjoying their time together. As for me, maybe I'll just rent a girlfriend online when the time comes.